Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. This is Hello Carlene, and it's an eclectic little channel on the YouTube platform where I dive into all kinds of different topics. So today's topic we're going to dive into is the Templar Knights and the possible truth behind Christianity. Yes, 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 yes. This is probably one of, if you haven't heard this information before, it's probably one of the most important information that you might hear this year, the ending of this year, beginning of the new year. And there's a problem with the world today and this information overload and this overconsumption of things, non-integration of things, just consistently consuming. And we do that with information as well. And we've kind of adapted the stance of this, oh yeah, this jaded kind of I know it all, I know everything, without really thinking deeper, feeling deeper about the ramification of certain information and the ripples and what that means forward and backward in time. And so it is with the information that I'm going to discuss today. Some of you have already probably heard of this person that I'm going to be referencing. His name is Timothy Hogan. He is or used to be a Grandmaster of the Knights Templar, which ended up in the United States, no surprise. And varying branches ended up in the United States, no surprise. And so he's been going around doing interviews the last couple months intensely, probably also in connection to him working on Gaia for a while. And so it's interesting to hear what he has to say about everything. And as it usually goes with the truth, it's not super spectacular. It is spectacular in the depth of it and what it changes, the deep currents. It's coming from someone who I experienced just watching him, not from, I don't know this person, but he seems to be very humble. There's a huge energy behind him, though. There's also an extraterrestrial energy definitely behind him or with him, an energy that is not quite of this earth, either working with him or through him, or he is a part of it in some way, shape, or form. But he is definitely someone where I feel me stumbling or the algorithm delivering me his videos after I started this trip that I'm doing in September 2025 to Mary Magdalene country in southern France. All of a sudden, the algorithm starts feeding me these things. I'd never heard of him before. And so when I started watching his videos, and I thought, like everybody I guess does, tell me something new, like there's this energy waiting in the background of your mind, of your consciousness that's kind of like, okay, And he did. He absolutely did. Not only did he give me something new, he also validated things that I've been picking up on over the years, which I've also spoken about on this channel. One example that I can give you right off the bat is several years ago, I was wandering through these forests in northern Germany, and I stumbled across a pathway. And this pathway was, and I'll put up an AI picture here. I noticed there were 6 different trails in the forest that were leading to this one flower in the center, and it was ginormous. This beautiful, beautiful, beautiful flower. And I think this is what it's called. But in any case, I followed one of these spokes of the wheel that went out from the flower. And as I stood there, this was also in the middle of a clearing. How romantic. All of a sudden, I had this deep, profound insight. It was like this deep information was just gifted to me. And I do feel I was connecting to some kind of higher energy or higher force at that point. I felt it in my body. I felt the energy, the air around me shift, like literally the molecules in the air shifted. And I felt like I was different. I was rooted. I couldn't move, nor did I want to move. I just wanted to soak up this energy. It was so beautiful. It was so magnificent. It was so perfect. It was so amazing. And what this energy revealed to me was that the symbol of Mother Mary and the Christ child is a symbol of humanity. And that it had been given to humanity in order for humanity to understand how to connect with higher consciousness and manifest that higher consciousness into this earth plane. And so the whole symbolism of Mary in the Bible reflected our subconscious on a collective as well as on an individual level. The subconscious is always seen as feminine. It's seen as a receptacle, a receptive of all kinds of things that are to be implanted there. So when we look at Mother Mary and we see Mother Mary as the subconscious, then we can look at how her life was in the Bible, in the New Testament, how she was described, and take that as a blueprint for how we should train our subconscious through repetition. So it's shown that Mary was always directed towards God. She was always praying. So if we see the subconscious as like a kind of satellite dish that's always tuned to God, receiving only from God. She had no other husbands. That means she had no other beliefs or agendas or anything that came outside of the divine that she paid any attention to in her belief sets, in her mind structure. And so she received the Immaculate Conception. And the Immaculate Conception means that this impulse that came directly from God didn't run into any structures in her subconscious that would have diluted, diverted, distracted, pulled it away. There were no other husbands or no other men or no other gods beside God. So what happens nowadays is we receive that impulse from the divine and it runs right into our subconscious programming from this material world. So we start asking questions. We start seeding it with doubt. To doubt, by the way, is absolutely nefarious. It is absolutely toxic. If you have severely doubtful people around you, these doubtful people don't realize that they are serving something that is not from the divine. And they will uproot, they will annihilate whatever it is that you are trying to create or you are trying to do. Warning is to distance yourself from doubtful people. So, especially people that confuse doubt with intelligence. And that is rampant in our society today. They think that if they're the most cynical and the most doubtful, then they're the smartest. And that's absolutely not true. A lot of influential scientists were absolute believers, and they had to be believers in order to believe in their research and to continue it and to continue to find out what it is that they were looking for. But back to Mother Mary. So Mother Mary as the symbol of the human subconscious or the subconscious realms. And the Mary also represents on the manifested level on this earth, right? So there are two sides to her. The church and the church in air quotes. So it's clearly not the church that you and I know today. None of these revival churches, not the Vatican, nothing along those lines. It represents the collective human consciousness under the leadership of God, under the direction, the alignment to God. So living lives in alignment with God. That's what Mother Mary actually represents. So in alignment to God, the only thing that she can give birth to, and we'll talk about this when we talk about what Timothy Hogan said, which validated this lesson that I was taught in this moment. So the only thing that Mother Mary can give birth to is Christed action, because the masculine represents action, represents doing, represents being out there in the world, represents the external. And Christ, the child, had to be a child, had to be masculine because it represents action. And that action is consistently looking towards the mother, meaning the subconscious. What is it telling me to do? What is my alignment? What is my intuition? What is my inside telling me to do? And so the symbol was gifted to humanity, and people were meant to teach this to humanity by way of this. But as humans do, we kind of lost the message, we kind of lost the teaching and started worshiping the image, but not the message contained within the image. And so we have entire cultures that are based on, mothers loving their sons and sons being the most desired offspring and all this stuff, like these twisted beliefs and mindsets and cultures that we've developed on the basis of the misunderstanding of the symbol. So fast forward, how is that validated? That, because I spoke about this back in 2017, actually. I did a video on the next years that were to come, and I was speaking about this, but it just, I don't know. I didn't, people weren't like, yeah. So it's a very selfish world that we're living in right now, and I'm just having to state it as it is. That it's a very small. We've gone down to the darkest separation that we can go darker, but right now it's pretty dark. And the light, the illuminated light of our consciousness, doesn't really move outside of the container of the I, the ego mind. So, in anyways. Um, this Timothy Hogan was on many of his interviews, he was explaining how the Templar Knights saw the symbol of the Mary and why the Templar Knights, when they built churches, were always referencing the Mary, were always pointing to the Mary a lot of times. Because a lot of interviewers asked him, why was Mary so important to the Templar Knights? And he replied that in the belief system, and I believe that this is the information that he's allowed to reveal. I do think that there's more information which he hints at and which he outright states, which I'll get into about Mary. That is important. But he stated that in the belief system of the Templar Knights, they believed that Mary represented the church. So the church was built on the body of humankind, right? So where the navel is and things like he explains it here. But when you leave the church, when you're inside of a church and you leave the church, you're walking out of a womb, you're walking into the world. And so what does Mary give birth to? So if Mary is the church, then the congregation is Christ. And that's a very powerful message that somehow got omitted from the teachings that were given to people. And people are still to this day, instead of accepting their divine power, they're writing it off, they're pushing it off, they're giving it away to these figures that are really just lights in the night, meant to guide us on our pathway, meant to lead us forward into accepting our divinity. So in any case, but then again, the messages are not, and this is the thing with the shallowness of our world today, is that people continually expect, first of all, they're not really truly interested in deep, dark topics. Those will always remain a select, a small few in when you're looking at the whole world as a whole. And they're not really beyond, their immediate bodily gratification. They're not really, yeah. And then people have been also trained to worship material wealth. So only when they see material wealth does something trigger in their mind that, oh, there's something that's interesting. There's something that I want too. Let me go see how they got it. And like zombie-like, they all move in that direction. So it's really interesting to observe. So that's one thing that's holding the collective back for sure. And then the next thing as well is the belief that spiritual teachers have to show up in a certain way. So, like I said, gurus, and I've stated this in other videos, the ultimate gurus that have ultimately given their lives for the mission on this planet, on this earth, a lot of them, a lot of them end up teaching the hardest lesson of all, which is disillusionment. And disillusionment is such a hard, powerful lesson that people remain bitter over it for years, if not for the rest of their lives. Instead of recognizing the lesson in it, they go bitter. And then they come back, they reincarnate, and they start their process again. But this is such a deep, powerful lesson that it is really hard for people to integrate, to adopt, to recognize, to see. But if you look at all the gurus in this world that have lived, all of them have taught disillusionment. All of them have had all kinds of powers projected onto them, have had all kinds of capabilities and abilities projected onto them because people want to believe in the magic, and magic does exist, but it exists within you. And so they project all these expectations onto the guru, and the guru takes it on, and the guru also takes on the karma of the students that he has taken on. That is part of the role of the guru, is to take on the karma and transmute the karma as well for these students so that they have the ability to have a lighter load so they can actually learn and rise in their frequency to learn the spiritual lessons that they want to learn. So but the ultimate teaching is do not believe in me. This too is just an illusion. And that is really, really hard for people because they believe what they see with their eyes, and they're very, very attached to that. And it's really hard for them to release that final thing. And it becomes that this whole entire material world collapses in front of their eyes. Everything they believe collapses. And that moment has to happen, that moment of disillusionment, for them to be able to see clearly, for them to be able to see the truth, for them to finally start on their true pathway of finding their true power. But many people, they don't recognize that, and they burn. They burn. So it's a powerful teaching, and it's a ultimate sacrifice of these teachers that incarnate to teach that and become nailed to the cross, become tarnished in books and in interviews and in all these people going on, everywhere saying, oh, they are. And there are certain gurus that are absolutely nefarious, yes, but there are certain gurus that are. Take, for example, Osho. Osho was demonized when he was still Bhagwan. And he was so demonized that no country would take him in, except for the United States after a lot of begging. And now his books are everywhere. His teachings are everywhere. And everything, his tarot cards, or someone from his group did. It's everywhere, and everyone quotes Osho, but it took him forever. And if we look at Sai Baba, if we look at Amma, if we look at all these, if we look at Mahatma Gandhi, if we look at Martin Luther King, where it's stated, he's this powerful leadership figure, but on the flip side, he was also human, and he was always apparently cheating. He wasn't the perfect husband on his wife. And on the list goes. Like every single person that has done something magnificent, there's also a magnificent shadow side to that person. And this is part of the disillusionment, right? That it's a big, huge story behind that. But like I said, a lot of people they just burn. They burn. They literally burn. And they have a hard time integrating that lesson. So the lesson that Timothy is about to teach or show the world. And he's anticipating in his interviews, he's saying that they might reveal this knowledge within the next few years. So I'm excited to see if they do. And that knowledge, which I'm super excited about, actually, and this is the current of energy that I'm feeling, that I'm tuned into, that I'm tuning into, and this is why the Mary Magdalene tour came up for me. And why it was so important that I offer this is because first, it's so hard to put into words because these are all energies. But I was feeling that there's a major shift that is about to hit Christianity. Christianity is going to shift in a big way in the next few years. Speak Vatican Shift. We know that there was an unusual ceremony performed by the Vatican over the last couple weeks. The opening of several portals, the opening of several doors. And we know that the Vatican and that stream of Catholicism is connected to much deeper things. We know that there are deep streams of information that the Vatican has withheld from humanity, possibly to protect it, which I do not doubt, because humanity is they're not ready for so many things. They think they are, but they're not. And we saw that very clearly during the pandemic. We saw that absolutely clearly. And so that was a magnificent social test to see how ready humanity was for certain things. In any case, moving forward, um, we're hoping now, of course, that some entities from outside come and get us. But according to Timothy Hogan, that's also not going to happen. They're going to keep us from connecting to any other galactic federation or anything like that, as long as we're in this infantile state where we are, well, it's not even infantile because infants are loving, this crazed, deranged state where we hate each other and we hate life, and we're so bitter and confused that we can't sit for a moment and just breathe and just look around us and see what's going on. And as long as we're warring each other and we're fighting over beliefs, that's what we're fighting over, our beliefs, literally. And we can't join any kind of federation because we would take that energy into that where they've created peace. Now, he stated, and this is why it's so important that I do this Mary Magdalene trip, because he stated that they have, and this is why this is my true belief, my personal belief. And I classify myself as Christian. You guys know this, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I classify myself as, even though I'm baptized now, Orthodox. That doesn't mean that was part of my searching. That was part of my looking. That was my part of my turning over every stone. And that doesn't mean that I believe or abide by every single thing, that clearly I don't. But I have my own belief sets. I have my own connection to these teachings, which I do find profound. And what I believe and what I experienced and what I saw in my visions, though, was that Mary was a most important figure, absolutely, possibly even more important than Jesus in the original church, in the original teachings, in the original setup of things. Mary was an extremely wealthy woman who funded, supported, these more Gnostic teachings. And this is something that, the born again revivalists, Catholics, all of these directions, they're probably going to be a little bit shocked. That's what Timothy's saying when they find out that, the original teachings are pretty Gnostic. They are pretty live and let live. They are pretty open to all these other things. They're not demonizing everything and calling everything demons. They're recognizing the magnificence and the variety of life and life's expression. And Mary was absolutely central to that. Now, what he stated was what the Templars in the medieval ages found out when they went to the the promised land, so to speak. And he also stated, before I dive into that, that the Templars were actually formed to protect the artifacts that were found down there because it was such a wild west down there during the Crusades. And the Templars weren't really crusaders. They're pictured nowadays as crusaders, but they really weren't. They were more after knowledge and artifacts, and they were formed to protect those artifacts so that the artifacts wouldn't be sold off, destroyed, because, They didn't like what they saw and it was demonic. Sold off, destroyed, and it wasn't um, given to the church, where the church would just conveniently let it disappear so that they could maintain their narrative. And so what the Templars found was the actual burial site of Jesus, Mary Magdalene, their children, but also of John the Baptist and their children. Yes. So the Templars state that the way it looks is that Mary Magdalene was originally married to John the Baptist. John the Baptist was the original one whom the prophecies were meant to, he was supposed to be the one to make this all come about. And he was the one who carried the energy to make it all come about. But he passed away. And he passed away quickly. And because Jesus was the cousin of John the Baptist, it was legal for Mary to remarry to keep her children and the family line going, and so on and so forth. She remarried to Jesus. She then had children with Jesus as well. And so that's what they believe. These bones were then, because the Templar Knights have vaults all over the world. There are also vaults in Istanbul, which the Vatican tried to break into at some point, he stated, but there are also vaults on Native American reservations. There are vaults that are, there's one in particular that is not easily accessible right now at all. It's under ice or something like that. But one of the vaults where the bones were kept was on Oak Island. And Oak Island, yes, it was a vault. And he's saying, yes, but it was cleared out back in 1765 in preparation for the American Revolution. The Templars, they're behind the scenes pulling and strings kind of thing. And they knew that there was a world war coming, and a revolutionary war coming, excuse me. And so they emptied out the vault there in Oak Island and placed it somewhere else for safekeeping, just in case. So there are 6 Ark of the Covenants that the arcs that the Templars have, and they are electricity or static energy producing. There's so many things he says in the interviews, and I'll link to below, which I really encourage you to watch. But all in all, everything he was saying made sense. The pieces started coming together for the visions that I was having, the intuitions that I was having, the insights that were coming to me. And they want to reveal the bones of Jesus and Mary Magdalene within the next few years. But there's some preparations that they need to make happen before they do that, because clearly when they do that, things are going to go off. So one of the things is, of course, DNA testing, because how are you going to prove this? So apparently they found something else which is going to allow them to prove that these are the bodies, the actual bodies of these people. So we can imagine what humanity is going to do with that information. People are going to start rising up saying, I'm a direct descendant of Jesus and all this nonsense. And this is the problem with humanity, is it's a real problem. It's a real problem. There's something in our consciousness that is just off. And but in any case, he's stating that it's time to kind of, reveal this now. And I feel that the church knows this, and that the church is preparing for its end days. And the end days that we keep hearing about and talking about, they're not necessarily the end days of humanity, right, as such, but the end days of a certain profoundly, deeply entrenched, held belief that really will uproot everything for almost everyone on this planet, because the church has literally influenced every single mind structure through colonialism, through all kinds of, whatever it is, our Sunday through to Saturday week, our Christmas holidays, our all of it. And to literally realize that we've built all of this upon a one huge misunderstanding, which was initially maybe how did the church even come into being? I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but there were three emperors and the three emperor edicts. And let me just show you this. Okay, so here we have the Nicene Creed. No, Quatch. Sorry. The Edict of Thessalonica, which was done by the Edict of Thessalonica, three Roman emperors make Nicene Christianity the official state religion of the Roman Empire. So on February 27, 380, by the Edict of Thessalonica, Roman emperors Theodosius, Gratian, and Valentinian II made Nicene Christianity the official state of the religion. My goodness, why can't I speak? Made the official state religion of the Roman Empire, stating that all their subjects should profess the faith of the bishops of Rome and Alexandria. Mind you, remember that the bishops were um, followers of Paulinian Christianity, right? So the Christianity that was based on Paul. And there were numerous sects of Christianity prior to the officialization of this, and prior to the Nicene Creed. And Nicene Christianity over here on Wiki is defining the statement of belief of Nicene Christianity and in those Christian denominations that adhere to it. So actually, all people that are now Christians are at their root Nicene Christians. So the original Nicene Creed was first adopted at the First Council of Nicaea in 325, so on and so forth. It's a lot to read through. You can read it. But the purpose of a creed is to provide a doctrinal statement of correct belief amongst Christians amid controversy. The Nicene Creed was adopted to resolve the Arian controversy, whose leader Arius, a clergyman of Alexandria, objected to Alexander's, the bishops of the time, apparent carelessness in blurring the distinction of nature between the Father and the Son by his emphasis on eternal generation. A lot to read into it. But really understand where the root of if you're Christian and identify as Christian, where the root of your beliefs originate in, like where do they come from? What am I actually aligning to and professing to? What field of consciousness am I actually tapping into and finding information in? So, in any case, that's being said, the Templar Knights had a lot to do with the development of Christianity after this, but also with the development of the New World, right? So they sailed via, I think, Scotland. They escaped to Scotland, and then from Scotland to the New World via Canada, where they landed first in Oak Island, brought all their treasures there, and then in 1765 they knew the Revolutionary War was about to happen, so they emptied it out, according to Timothy Hogan, and brought it to other vaults. And one of these vaults is on reservation. Another one is somewhere under ice, and they can't get to it right now. And another one is in Istanbul, and they have various vaults all over the world. And flashback to the Middle Ages, but apparently the Templar Knights traveled all around the world and looking for various artifacts and stuff things. And they found various things and they keep them safeguarded and for safekeeping, but the old world knew that. So when for example, Columbus sailed out and discovered the New World, he used the crosses on his sail, which were the crosses that the Templar Knights used, so that the people of the New World, which they already knew existed, would see him as a friendly, would see him as the return of the gods, so to speak, and welcome him as the gods, because at that time, those people saw the Templar Knights as semi-gods, demigods at least. So the history of it all is just mind-blowing, and the what this information will do if it is revealed to the building block of our world is going to be interesting, because Christianity has influenced every single corner on this planet. There is no corner of this planet that hasn't been touched by the colonizers, the colonialist version of Christianity. So let's have a look, and let's have a look at Timothy Hogan, because another thing that is really interesting to me is that the criticism that he doesn't show up as the teacher that they're expecting to see. But remember that the ultimate teaching of a guru is disillusionment. So all gurus are going to teach disillusionment. And this is the one thing that humanity can't forgive. The one thing that people will go bitter over and block their entire further spiritual growth. It's the testing block. It's really to see, is this metal going to hold? Is this really it? Is that point of disillusionment when you get disillusioned by your teacher, your disillusionment. And so this is the point where you either sink or swim. And a lot of humanity tends to sink, and they can't get over it. They write books. They do, the expectations that they place in a guru to be more than human is interesting at best. And if not, in a way, kind of a soul capture, a soul drain at worst. And it's interesting. Now, of course, there are gurus that do very questionable, more than questionable things, but there are others that are simply human, simply human beings, and have those failures, and they incarnated for that specific reason, taking on that specific role in order to disillusion people, to lead them back full circle to within themselves, that all the power, all the glory is within, within. And not in this accumulation of coping mechanisms of dealing with the world and with life that we call a personality or an ego, which is actually AI, right? But your deep core self, your deep essence, that part of you that is unchangeable, that is emanated from a divine core, that part of you. And too many people are invested in the surface. They're invested in looks, personality growth, personality development. But at the same time, if you're aligned to a specific source, then that dictates the music that comes out of your radio. Speak your personality, right? You don't really have to worry about that or obsess over that. It's more worry about what are you aligned to, and what are you aligning to, choosing to align to. And so, yeah, while people are, focusing on the guru to save their lives, the guru inevitably will lead them down a path which leads to disillusionment. All things do, because the truth has to prevail, and whatever is keeping you from the truth will reveal itself. So So this disillusionment that is about to come down the pipelines, which is going to be a big one. How is this going to play out? First of all, how do we see Timothy Hogan? And a lot of people are disappointed because they have this image of perfection. And when they're looking at the image that they've created, they're like, oh, I can't take the message from you because you're not perfect. You're not what I thought to be perfect. People are absolutely surprised. What? This is what the Grandmaster of Templar Knights look like? They're expecting a whole lot more based on Hollywood movies and the images that they've created in their own subconscious. But God chooses who he works through. God chooses when and where the messenger shows. And this is a thing that a lot of people, even in the spiritual community, have difficulties with, remembering that God is the one that makes the choice, because the fundamental belief in a God, that's debatable. Like that's where it's all beginning, right? So in any case, let's move on here. Um, let's do some cards on who Timothy is. And I saw his energy, and I'm able to see energies more and more, in the sense that the true essence reveals itself. And so, of course, I see auras and things like that, but also there's something that rises up through people that shows itself to me. So that's interesting how that's becoming clearer and clearer right now. I'm not sure why, it just is. So the first thing that shows up when it comes to Timothy Hogan is he's a definite servant of the divine, of the mother, of the feminine. We've got the Empress here. And it almost feels as if he was chosen. He was absolutely selected. He was absolutely chosen. He was absolutely set on his pathway with a divine mission. And this mission is possibly, I do feel like the feminine is on the return, but she's not showing up standing on the mountain, going, I am feminine, I am woman, Eartha Kitt. Um, oh my goodness. Anyways, Eartha Kitt in that movie, was it Boomerang where she's giving birth? Oh my gosh. Yeah, anyways, no, it's not that, but it's in each and every woman. A kind of a new awareness is just rising up, a new awareness which leads to a little bit more freedom and a little bit more and a little bit more. And also a realization that the stories that we've been told around masculinity, patriarchy, leadership, the archetype of leadership and needing to have a leader in order to function, may not quite be true. I mean, Mary is an archetype of allowing. Mary is an archetype of not necessarily of leadership in the way we see leadership. So women have always taken that on, seeing the feminine as being kind of weaker for not being that strong leader. Like, I'm a woman leader, but it's still following the pathway of how men or a masculine mind decided to fix a problem. Whereas the way of nature or the feminine is to simply allow. Let it play itself out and see what happens. And this is an archetype that is also extremely powerful, but in the masculine mindset, it's very scary, right? So it's but we haven't really seen a feminine archetype that just plays that essence and that energy. And so it comes across when you run into people like that, that they're very kind of soft, they're just whatever. And it's opening the door for that energy to possibly find a space here in this highly categorized, analytical, judgmental world. He sees himself as an eternal, he partakes and he shares in the energy of Christ. And we see that here with the balance and the temperance card. We see temperance and the two Marthas or the two Marys again. And this was a time when Jesus was there in the Bible and visiting and teaching. And he also raised Lazarus from the dead at that time, I believe as well. So there's this very, very an opening to what I want to call a Marian age, and a realization that um, actually it was to Mary that Jesus passed on the foundations of possibly in some kind of a transmission of energy, the foundations of the new consciousness, the new beliefs. It wasn't as expected to a male. Okay, so there's another thing that's coming out of the interviews with Timothy, and as well as out of the teachings that are coming from Southern France that are coming out of that it wasn't, the old times weren't what we thought they were, you guys. So people see him as being victorious, as breaking through barriers. He's able to break through the barriers that people have erected, the barriers of belief, the barriers of mind. He just has that ability to be very untriggered, no matter what people throw at him. And it's amazing to watch him in the interviews and to watch his energy and to see how carefully he words things so as not to trigger egos, not to, do any harm. And how people don't know what to do with that. They're so used to this masculine way of going about things. And he just shows up really himself and vulnerable, no protections, and just this is what it is. Do with it whatever you want. And this energy of this archetype of allowing, which really doesn't jive with their image of a leader, of, oh. And so I love it. I love it. I'm eating it up. So, Page of Cups. Oh, this is how Spirit sees him. This card And this is one of the secrets in the tarot, is probably one of the most powerful cards. We're thinking all the time death is the power. You know, the devil is a powerful card, like all the trumps, or even the King of Pentacles as the ultimate that we're developing into. And the softest is this one. So I'll just leave it to you in this reading to meditate on and I don't even want to talk about power anymore, because there's so much more to life and to living than power and might and leadership and whoa. Like there's so much more than just these things that we've narrow-mindedly been focusing in on personally, but also on a collective level. And moving outside of the constrictions of power and diving into the energies of the Page of Cups. What happens with you? I'll leave it with that, but that's what Spirit is saying. That's how they see Timothy Hogan. Okay. Couldn't be a better representative, could not be a better representative. He was born for this role. And yeah. So with this revealment, will they reveal? Will they reveal the bones and all of these things? Will they be revealed? And what will happen as a result of that revelation? So the first thing is the Six of Coins. This is an answer to a prayer. This is a karma that has been coming around, that has been waiting, that has been meant to happen. Um, hmm. There's something about the feminine energy again, this widow that puts more into the treasury than all the others. I feel like this could also reference the Magdalene. I have to look it up again and see which widow he's specifically talking about. But it feels as if this somehow ties in some way, shape, or form. But I'll feel into that a little bit more and possibly post something on my Patreon. But the Six of Coins, it feels like there's something connected to the economy or to money, and not destabilizing something. Like this is something that can like shake the foundations. And I also feel like we've also always been focusing on Armageddon being the end of the world, but we haven't realized that maybe it's not the end of the world, it's the end of the Catholic Church, or the end of a beliefs or mindset. And remember that even if you say you're an atheist, and that what's interesting is who said it? There's a scientist that said, if you, I think, was it Heisenberg, that if you just dabble in science, you become an atheist. But if you take it all the way and you go to the bottom of the cup, you'll find God looking back at you. And it feels like something like that is about to happen. It's removing the middleman again between us and the divine. And that is the profound shift of ages that is about to happen. It's not what we thought it would be at all. And the right timing is soon coming, where the shift will, humanity, the consciousness of humanity will be able to carry this, will be able to balance this out. It won't tip the scales, because this is the Six of Coins of balance, right? So an equal giving and taking. So this is such profound information. Information has weight. The frequency of it has weight, and it has to be exchanged in an equal manner. Hope that makes sense. And so there's something that is going to be revealed that is going to balance out this revelation so that it doesn't tip the scale, so that humanity doesn't slide down a black hole, which it would have if it had been revealed any earlier than when it's going to be revealed. So this is interesting. The second card that comes up is the Two of Wands. It's going to open up a whole new pathway or a whole new outlook onto life or a new way of perceiving our lives. It's on the one hand, yes, it's going to cause some to go down, but others to rise high. Let's put it that way. And this is going to be the split of ages. But this Armageddon that we're looking at, the downfall of all things, it's the structures of what a belief in Catholic faith or in the Nicene faith, Nicene Christianity has built. And that means like dominoes, all the sects, all the denominations, all of the cults, all of that which arose as a result of a spin-off of it's all going to come crumbling down. And it's a good thing on the one hand, and the earth will be able to balance it out. Here we have the high priest, yeah. And we have the King of Wands. So really, this is a moment like he's doing all these interviews to prepare the general collective consciousness. This is not about the individual. These interviews are to prepare the general collective consciousness to be able to play with these ideas lightly and not call out demons, 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 demons. There are demons coming up from the sea. There are demons coming down from the sky. It's too much, you guys. Like it's enough now, it's enough. And yeah, it's a phenomenal time that is ahead of us, but this shift is what's going to allow humanity to reveal herself, to reveal who she truly is and what she's really about. Will they reveal in 2025, 26, 27? And this is like 27 is a pivot year. So there's something happening in 2027 that's really in 2032 and 2030. Like this is a pivotal age. Um, yeah. So 2027, something insightful is coming our way, but 2025 is definitely a game changer. And this is the chariot. This is progression, forward movement, um, individuality. But we also have the King of Swords in 2026. So again, trying to restructure again the old energies, like trying to regain control. This is the Pharaoh, right? Remember the Pharaoh chasing after the Hebrews, after the Pharaoh says, "Go, leave my land," says to Moses, "Take them with you, get out." And then all of a sudden he changes his mind and he wants to regain control and runs them down. But here we have the King of Swords who's analyzing, balancing, looking at everything. And then we have the Knight of Swords, which is the moving mind, right? The moving mind, a movement has now come into things, and things start to shift and break down, inciting things. So 2027 is going to be a spicy year. I've been told that since 2024 to 2027 is spice. These are the years where we see who we could be. That's what Spirit told me a long time ago. And it's not necessarily who we will be or who we are and how we see who we could be, because also be a sad look at the current state and realizing, we could do better, we should do better. But it's the revealment 2025 possibly, or 2027. But if they reveal in 2027, there's so much else going on and happening that it might, I wouldn't say go under, but become just one of the many soapbox themes that are going on at that time. And they might do it then for that reason. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But this story that is to me absolutely beautiful and is more sacred and holy. And because it's so real, because it's so you can empathize with that, you can feel with that. And this is powerful because here we have a woman who was living the gamut of life. You know, she was married, had children, her husband dies, she's a single mom, remarries, that husband dies, she's a single mom again. Um, it's powerful. It's powerful. And maybe, um, maybe that the second husband didn't die in the way that we're thinking he died, right? So it's all going to be revealed. Um, yeah, it's amazing that they've kept the secret for this long. It's amazing that they were able to keep a clamp on it for years, but I'm not surprised. I know some people are going to come up and say, yeah, how they keep that for this long? It's been like almost, but I live here. I used to, my hometown, or what I classify as my hometown, is a town where there was an apothecary. Is that what you call it? An apotheco. And there was an apothecary that was there longer than the church, the minster that they'd built, that they'd started building in the Middle Ages. They began the building of the minster, I think, in that town, 1200 something or the other, and they weren't done until 1800 something. And that apothecary was in that exact spot with the exact family from 1100 something or the other until they just closed 2000 whatnot. And it had been in the same family and had been running almost nonstop except for during the Black Death, the plague, I believe. And then otherwise they were up and running constantly. So you don't know, you never know. Everything's absolutely possible. You guys, I'm wishing you a wonderful start into your new year, a wonderful jump into what's going to be a pretty wild 2025. It's the year of the shapeshift, and I'll be doing a special New Year's ceremonial chit chat for my Patreonies. So if you're not on my Patreon, join. It's going to be for all members, whether paid or not, and we'll dive into the energies of the new year and what's coming up. And otherwise, I invite you to explore these interviews with this person because there's something that's energetically very, very, very truthful, ringing true for me. He's still holding back with a lot of information, a lot of information he's still holding back on, but what he is revealing is ringing true and feeling true for me. So go check out the interviews. Take care. Bye.